On my 34th birthday, I walked into a situation that I never imagined. My wife, Emily, had promised me a special surprise for the occasion, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to face. For the past week, she had been acting strangely, always on her phone, smiling at things I couldn't see, and being overly secretive. I thought it was a surprise party or maybe some nice gesture to make up for the tension between us. But oh, how wrong I was. We'd been married for 6 years. I met Emily back in college, a stunning woman from a wealthy family, and I was just a scholarship student trying to make ends meet with a couple of part-time jobs. Emily's family never really approved of me. Her father, Greg, would make snide remarks about my humble beginnings every holiday dinner. Her mother, Lisa, would always ask how my little job was going, even after I had been promoted. Meanwhile, Emily would post about our modest apartment, making it sound like we were some kind of charity case compared to her cousin Victoria, who was married to a millionaire and living in a mansion. Lately, things had been different. Emily spent more time at work events, coming home late, smelling like expensive cologne, and receiving texts that made her smile in a way I hadn't seen in months. I wasn't blind, I knew something was off, but I kept hoping if I worked harder, if I got promoted again, things would improve. Maybe if I was just good enough, she'd come back to me. So I came home from work on my birthday, exhausted but hopeful. I had to work, of course. Welcome to adulthood. Emily texted me to meet her at her parents' house for the surprise. Now I don't know why, but I didn't even question it. I showed up at Greg and Lisa's mansion in the suburbs, expecting a small family gathering or something, but what I walked into was a nightmare. The living room was filled with people. Emily's parents, her sister Charlotte, some cousins and a few family friends. All of them were holding champagne glasses, and there was this weird thick silence when I walked in. Emily stood in front of me with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ryan," she said, her voice almost too sweet, "we have something special for your birthday." Then Greg actually snickered, like a villain in a bad movie. At first I thought maybe they got me a car, or something equally ridiculous. But no, Emily pulled out a manila envelope from behind her back and said, "Surprise, I'm leaving you for someone who isn't a disappointment." The room fell silent, except for Greg, who started laughing. I froze, trying to process what was happening as Greg added, "We never thought she'd marry someone so beneath her. Thank God she finally came to her senses." Emily handed me the envelope, divorce papers already filled out, just waiting for my signature. And then Lisa popped a champagne bottle and poured glasses for everyone. It was like a sick celebration. They expected me to beg, to cry, to make a scene, but I didn't. Instead, something in me just snapped. I looked at the smug faces around me, at the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, and I felt nothing. It was like watching someone else's life fall apart. I asked for a pen. Emily's smile faltered, clearly disappointed. Greg handed me his fancy pen. I signed every line without a word, the only sound in the room being the scratch of my pen on paper and someone clearing their throat awkwardly. When I was done, I looked at Emily and said, "Thanks for the birthday gift. Best one I've ever received." Then I turned and walked out. No slam of the door, no shouting, just left them standing there in stunned silence. I got in my car and drove, not caring where I went. Eventually I ended up at a dive bar, a place where nobody knew me. I ordered a whiskey, then another. I stared at my phone as Emily's texts came in. "Why didn't you say anything? Are you seriously not going to fight for us? You're just proving my point by running away." About 3 drinks in, I felt a shift. The numbness faded, replaced by a cold, calculating rage. Not the kind that makes you lash out, but the kind that wants to dismantle everything, piece by piece. What Emily and her family didn't know was how much dirt I had on them. 6 years of marriage to someone from a family that treats their help like furniture means you see and hear a lot. I knew about Greg's business trips that weren't exactly business, about Lisa's creative bookkeeping, about the cousin who was sleeping with Charlotte's husband. That night, I did 3 things. 1. I called my friend Max, the most ruthless divorce attorney in town. I started screenshotting every suspicious text I could find from Emily's phone, all stored on our shared cloud. 3. I made a list of everyone who needed to hear my side of the story before Emily's. I didn't go home that night. I crashed at Max's place, waking up to a flood of panic texts from Emily. She couldn't believe I hadn't come crawling back, begging for reconciliation. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction. By noon the next day, Lena had already filed the counter paperwork. I'd taken my half out of our joint accounts, leaving hers untouched. I'm not an idiot. I also rented a storage unit and moved all my important stuff, while Emily was probably having brunch with her family, laughing about how devastated I must be. It's been a week since then, and now I'm staying at an Airbnb, while I figure out my next move. Emily's gone from smug to confused to furious, and now she's been calling me every hour. Her last text said, "This isn't how this was supposed to go." No, Emily, this isn't how any of it was supposed to go. Lena says I'm in a much stronger position than she expected. No kids, thankfully. My name is on most of our major assets, and I've got enough evidence of her affair to make her disappointment claims look pretty ironic. Oh yeah, did I mention she's been sleeping with her coworker Simon for months? That made her disappointment narrative all the more laughable. So here I am now, carefully planning my next steps. The rage hasn't gone away, but it's focused now. Her family thought I was nothing, treated me like dirt for years, celebrated the end of my marriage like it was some sort of graduation party. They have no idea what's coming. Anyone else ever deal with public humiliation from a spouse? How did you handle it? Right now I'm walking a fine line between taking the high road and scorched earth, and if I'm being honest, scorched earth is looking more tempting by the day. Update, holy crap you guys. First off, I wasn't expecting my original post to blow up like that. My inbox is wrecked. Thanks for all the awards and support, and to the 3 people who DM'd me divorce attorney recommendations. Respect. So it's been 3 months since that birthday disaster, and some of you have been asking for an update. Buckle up because things have gotten interesting. Let's start with the bombshell I discovered 2 days after my last post. I was going through our shared cloud storage to download photos I wanted to keep before Emily could delete them, and I stumbled across a folder labeled Work Presentation. The weird thing was, it was created around the time Emily started acting off. Naturally, I clicked on it. Turns out it wasn't a work presentation at all. It was hundreds of screenshots of texts between Emily and her coworker Simon, going back over 8. There were cute pet names, hotel meeting plans, and enough emojis to stock a digital grocery store. Pro tip, if you're cheating, maybe don't save the evidence on a shared cloud account. Just saying. There were selfies of them together at places Emily had told me she was working late. Turns out she wasn't analyzing quarterly reports at 10 p.m. on a Thursday, unless Simon's abs were somehow part of the financial analysis. I forwarded everything to Lena, and the response, "Christmas came early this year. The guy's a savage, and I'm all for it." So that was the first discovery, but here's where things get interesting. After the initial shock wore off, I made 3 decisions. 1. I was going to focus on getting my life together instead of just seeking revenge. I was going to let the divorce process play out through Lena, without engaging with Emily directly. 3. I was going to start subtly building a new life that would eventually make her regret everything. The apartment we shared was too full of memories, so I found a month-to-month rent. Nothing fancy, but it has a small balcony where I can actually see the stars at night. The first night there, I sat outside with a beer, looked up at the sky and realized I hadn't felt peace like that in years. I started hitting the gym regularly, not just to get a revenge body, though let's be real, that was part of it, but because I needed a place to channel all this anger. The first week I could barely lift anything without my arms shaking. Now I'm starting to see some definition. Who knew emotions could be channeled into biceps? The divorce proceedings have been interesting. Emily apparently expected to get half of everything, plus alimony because, in her words, she sacrificed career opportunities for our marriage. Lena actually laughed when he heard this. Turns out it's pretty hard to prove career sacrifices when you've been spending your work hours sending explicit texts to your coworker instead of, working. The affair evidence has been our ace in the hole. Emily's family always positioned themselves as these perfect, upstanding pillars of the community. Greg, her dad, is always posting on LinkedIn about family values and integrity in business. The thought of their precious daughter's affair going public during the divorce proceedings made them suddenly very agreeable to Lena's terms. One weird moment happened when I was clearing out the last of my things from the apartment. Emily showed up unexpectedly. First time I'd seen her since the birthday ambush. She looked different, hair messy, wearing sweatpants, which she never did before. She started giving this whole speech about how she'd made a mistake, how Simon wasn't who she thought he was, and how maybe we could talk about reconciliation. I just walked past her with my box of stuff and said, "I'll have my attorney contact yours if you have anything to discuss." The look on her face when I didn't collapse in gratitude for a second chance was honestly priceless. So here's where things stand now. The divorce is almost finalized. No alimony, thanks to the affair evidence. We're selling the apartment and splitting the proceeds, though I let her keep most of the furniture since I'm starting fresh. I've reconnected with old friends. Remember Mike, the buddy Emily always said was a bad influence because he once brought grocery store wine to dinner. He's still a solid guy and now we hang out weekly for game night. I even started that business idea Emily always mocked, customizing vintage furniture. Nothing huge, but I made my first sale on Etsy last week. The profit was $27 after expenses, but damn it felt good. Here's where it gets juicy. Emily's family's real estate business has hit some snaps. Apparently they lost a major investor for a big commercial project right after I had lunch with my old college roommate, who, plot twist, now works for that very investor. Did I mention anything specific about Emily's family during lunch? Did I accept his LinkedIn connection request afterward? Absolutely. Emily's sister Charlotte reached out to me last week. She's always been the only decent one in that family. She told me that Emily's a wreck and that Simon dumped her after Greg tried to get him a better position at their company. Apparently Simon was only using Emily for her family connection. Shocking, I know. Now Emily's Instagram has gone silent. It's gone from daily posts about her blessed life to complete radio silence. Meanwhile, I've been posting occasional updates, hiking trips, furniture projects, nights out with friends. Nothing flashy, just me, living a normal, happy life. Her best friend even accidentally liked one of my photos at 2 a.m. before quickly unliking it, so I know they're watching. Last night would have been our anniversary. I was sitting on my balcony scrolling through Twitter, feeling pretty okay actually when my phone lit up with a text from Emily. I know you probably hate me, but I can't stop thinking about where we'd be if I hadn't ruined everything. I miss your terrible jokes and the way you always made coffee for both of us, even when we were fighting. The apartment feels so empty now. Simon was a mistake. My family was wrong. I was wrong. Please, can we just talk? I'm not above begging at this point. I stared at that text for a full hour. Typed and deleted about 15 different responses. In the end I just put my phone down and went to bed without replying. The thing is, 3 months ago I would have given anything to get a text like that from her. Now I'm not even sure what I want anymore. The anger is still there but it's different now. Less consuming. This morning I woke up to 5 more messages from Emily. Each one more desperate than the last. The final message simply said, "I'm parked outside your building. Please come down." I looked out my window and sure enough, there was her white Audi parked in the visitor parking. She was just sitting there staring up at the building. I closed the blinds and made myself a coffee. What would you do? Part of me wants to hear what she has to say. Another part of me thinks opening that door even a crack would undo all the progress I've made. And a small petty part that I'm not proud of wants her to feel exactly what I felt that day at her parents' house. Life is weird, man. 3 months ago I thought my world was ending. Now I'm actually starting to think that whatever comes next might be better than what I had before. Final update. I never expected to be writing a third update to this saga, but life just keeps throwing curveballs. For those just tuning in, check my post history for the full backstory, but to summarize, my ex-wife Emily ambushed me with divorce papers at my birthday party in front of her entire family. They literally popped champagne to celebrate getting rid of me. Real class. So it's been exactly 6 months since that lovely birthday surprise, and a lot has changed. I moved out of that month-to-month rental into an actual house. Nothing fancy, just a small 3-bedroom in a decent neighborhood with a yard where I can finally get a dog. More on that later. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago with surprisingly little drama. Emily's family lawyer folded once. Lena showed the receipts for the affair. My furniture side hustle has been doing okay, not enough to quit my day job but enough to fund my coffee addiction and pay for streaming service. I've got regular customers now who specifically request my style. Still weird to think that people actually like the stuff Emily used to call tacky garage sale reject. Anyway, I was having a pretty normal Thursday night. Ordered pizza, binging the new Netflix series everyone's talking about. Honestly it's mid, but I'm too invested to stop when my Ring doorbell notification went off at like 11:30. I checked it thinking it was probably some drunk neighbor who got the wrong house again. Instead I saw Emily's car parked across the street, lights off. At first I thought maybe she had dropped someone off, but the car didn't move for over an hour. So I did what any normal person would do. I ignored it and went to bed. But I couldn't sleep, knowing she was just sitting out there. Around 1 a.m., I checked the camera again. Her car was still there. That's when my phone started blowing up with texts. "Todd, please. I know you're home. I just need 5 minutes. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Please answer. I've made a horrible mistake." And then the kicker that actually got me out of bed. "I've been sleeping in my car for 2 days. I have nowhere else to go." I went to the window and sure enough, there she was, reclined in the driver's seat of her Audi. The same car her dad bought her for her 25th birthday, which she once called entry level, even though it cost more than I made in 6 months. I debated what to do. Part of me, the petty part, wanted to just close the blinds and let her enjoy her car camping experience. But I'm not actually a monster, so I threw on sweats and a hoodie and went outside. The look on her face when I tapped on her window was raw. Her makeup was smeared, her hair unwashed, wearing what looked like the same clothes from her last Instagram post 3 days ago. She scrambled to unlock the door, almost falling out in her rush to talk to me. The first thing I noticed was the smell, not booze, but that stale fast food and desperation smell you get when you've been living in your car. The second thing I noticed was that she'd lost a lot of weight. Emily was always thin, but now she looked almost gone. She started rambling immediately, half crying, half talking. It took a minute to make sense of what she was saying, but apparently Simon, her affair partner, wasn't just sleeping with her. He was also funneling information about her family's business to competitors. Once her dad found out, he fired Simon, who promptly dumped her and disappeared with a bunch of confidential info. But it gets better. Emily, in her infinite wisdom, had been covering for Simon at work, changing reports to make his numbers look better because she was in love with him. When everything came to light, her dad finally had enough and cut her off completely. No more job at the family business, no more allowance, no more paid apartment. She'd been couch surfing with friends for weeks, but had burned through everyone's goodwill. Her last roommate kicked her out for not paying rent, which is how she ended up sleeping in her car outside my house as a last resort. I couldn't help but ask why she didn't go to her parents' mansion. That's when she dropped the bomb that her dad's business was under investigation for shady financial stuff that Simon had exposed. Turns out Mr. High and Mighty had been cutting corners and cooking the books for years. Their assets were temporarily frozen, and they had to downsize dramatically while the investigation continued. The karmic justice was almost too perfect. I invited her inside, not because I was considering taking her back, but because it was cold, and I didn't need a hypothermic X on my conscience. She walked in and immediately started crying again, this time about how nice my place looked. It's literally just normal furniture with actual plants I've managed to keep alive, but compared to her living in a car, I guess it seemed like the Ritz. We sat at my kitchen table, and I made coffee while she talked. The whole story came pouring out of how her parents had pressured her into the divorce after finding out about Simon, convincing her that she could trade up while taking half of my assets. How they'd planned the entire birthday ambush to humiliate me, so I'd sign the divorce papers quickly without a fight. How within weeks, she realized she'd made a terrible mistake, but her pride kept her from admitting it. She actually said, "I thought you'd fight for me." That's when I laughed, not meanly, just at the absurdity of it all. She orchestrates this public humiliation, tells me I'm a disappointment, serves me divorce papers on my birthday, and expected me to beg her to reconsider, to write a heartfelt letter about how I couldn't live without her. I asked her what she wanted from me now. More too. Then she laid it all out. She wanted to try again. She'd learned her lesson and grown as a person in the past 6 months. Apparently she had nowhere to go, no money, no job prospects. Her expensive degree was useless without Daddy's connection. She thought maybe she could move in with me while we figured things out. I let her finish. Then I did something that surprised even me. I thanked her. I thanked her for the divorce. For showing me exactly who she and her family were. For forcing me to rebuild my life on my own. The past 6 months had been hard, but also weirdly liberating. For the first time since college, I was making choices based on what I wanted, not what would please her or impress her family. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then came more tears and bargaining. She'd do anything to fix things. She'd changed. She'd never appreciated what she had. I told her she could crash on my couch for one night because it was late, and I wasn't going to send anyone out to sleep in their car. But in the morning she needed to figure out her next steps. Steps that didn't involve me. The shock on her face was almost comical. I don't think Emily had ever been told no in her entire life. Morning came and I made breakfast, because that's just what decent humans do. While we were eating, her phone rang. It was her dad. She put it on speaker, habit, I guess, and I heard Greg's voice for the first time since the birthday party. Gone was the smug condescension, replaced by something I'd never heard from him before, desperation. Their business was barely hanging on. Investors were pulling out left and right. They needed help from someone with connections in the industry. Emily had mentioned that I'd been doing well. He actually asked if I would consider meeting with him to discuss potential opportunities for mutual benefit. I almost choked on my coffee. The same man who had laughed at me for being beneath his daughter was now practically begging for my help. Emily looked at me with a weird mix of hope and embarrassment. I told Greg I wasn't interested in any business arrangements with him, but I knew someone who might be able to help. Mia, the woman I'd been seeing for the past month. She's actually brilliant at helping struggling businesses rebuild their reputation. Just friends so far, but honestly the healthiest relationship I've had in years. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Greg asked for Mia's contact information. I gave it to him, ended the call and looked at Emily. The realization was dawning on her. Not only was I not taking her back, but I'd moved on. She left an hour later with a backpack of essentials, and an Uber to her sister Annabelle's place, who had agreed to let her stay temporarily. As she was leaving, she asked if I would ever forgive her. I told her I already had, not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to anger was exhausting, and I had furniture to refinish and a dog to adopt. Speaking of which, meet Max, the three-legged rescue pit bull I adopted last weekend. Tax included in the post. He drools on my couch and steals my socks, but he's the best decision I've made in years. So that's the end of the Emily saga. 6 months from champagne celebrating my devastation to sleeping in her car outside my house. Life comes at you fast. I don't know what happens next for her. I hope she figures it out. I hope her family learns something from all this. But mostly I'm just looking forward to all the things I never got to do when I was trying to fit into their world. Traveling without worrying about luxury accommodations. Making furniture without being told it's embarrassing. Getting a dog that sheds all over everything. For those who followed this whole crazy story, thanks for the support, the advice and occasionally calling me out when I was being a dick. It helped more than you know. Anyone else come out the other side of a nightmare and realize it was actually the best thing that ever happened to you. If you found this story as jaw-dropping as I did, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another unbelievable twist of fate. This channel brings you real stories of betrayal, revenge, redemption and sometimes poetic justice. Ryan's journey from public humiliation to quiet victory reminds us that healing isn't just possible, it's powerful. What would you do if the person who destroyed your life came crawling back asking for forgiveness? Would you open the door or walk away for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every one of them.